temporary art AC. It is free to the public. It has nice AC and the washrooms are really clean, which is a great plus. But back in the day, it did used to serve a different function. Does anybody want to take a wild guess as to what the power plant might have functioned as? Power plant, you're correct. No trick questions on the tour here. That's because if you would have come to Toronto about 80, 90 years ago, you would have seen a very different view of this harbourfront in Toronto in general. Tracks up all those smelly, dirty, polluting factories and forced them all down to Hamilton, Ontario. We just kept the building. We just the actual, or it used to be a power plant. Today's an art gallery. This building coming up on our right here, Toronto. And then a bunch of shows. So shows like Umbrella Academy was filmed here. A piece of Stranger Things was filmed here. The Skydome is correct, sir. A much more functioning retractable river stadium. Keep in mind the two words there, fully functioning. That's because Montreal actually got word that we were building this retractable roof stadium, and they tried to beat us to the punch. So they retrofitted their Olympic stadium to also have a retractable roof. Sorry, yeah. For any of you wondering what this music is, the CN Tower is actually just a really big radio. So our speakers are actually catching interference. This is the music that's playing in the CN Tower elevator, and since we're so close to it, it actually picks up the same frequency. Sorry, so as I was saying, yeah, Montreal got word that they tried to have a retractable roof themselves, so they retrofitted their Olympic Stadium to also have a retractable roof. The little thing was Montreal's Olympic Stadium roof opened a grand total of once. The roof opened and the machine fixed it. The Rogers Center from the day it opened until today still fully opens and closes that roof. It takes about 20 minutes and $20 of electricity to fully open and close it. And it is home to our only Major League Baseball team, the Toronto Blue Jays. Yeah, it's about the typical response we get when we talk about the Blue Jays. If you haven't gone to a Blue Jays game in your life, though, I do highly recommend it, preferably on a Tuesday. That's because every Tuesday when the Blue Jays are playing, it's $1 hot dog day. In around July last year, we did break the record for the most hot dogs sold during one Blue Jays game. In a 43,000 capacity stadium, we sold about 75,000 hot dogs during one Blue Jays game. Please keep in mind though, if you do decide to go to the Blue Jays game, please go hungry, don't go thirsty. That's because for the price of one beer, you can buy 17 hot dogs. The Rogers Center all throughout its years, so it opened in 1989. The Rogers Center has been home to a bunch of very famous events, and the most attended event ever here at Rogers Center in history, I always thought it used to be probably like a Blue Jays game, maybe like a concert. It's actually WrestleMania 6. And then the second most attended event here in Rogers Center's history was WrestleMania 8. That is where we had the Ultimate Warrior face off against Hulk Hogan. And now our lovely Captain Katie here is turning us towards the Toronto Islands, which are the islands I have behind me. But before I speak about those, I want to direct your attention to the right to this island with an airport on it. Very creatively named Airport Island. It is home to Billy Bishop International Airport. I say international airport, even though it only flies to 2 countries. But it has flights inside of Canada, and it also has very few select, about 70, so it's not that much bigger than this. Billy Bishop Airport got its name from the World War I fighter pilot, Billy Bishop. He was known as an aerial ace. What you have to do to become an aerial ace, you have to have at least 5 confirmed takedowns in the sky. Billy Bishop had 72, second not only to a German fighter pilot known as the Red Baron. And now, if you look to your right, you're going to see these large white buoys here that say keep out. These buoys mark the keep out zone. No boats are allowed to go inside that zone. So what would happen if Captain Katie here were to lose her mind and turn this into the zone? Both her and I would be in a lot of trouble. We would both receive $10,000 fines, 5-year suspensions of our commercial licenses, and even face possible jail time. So before I continue with the tour, I want everybody to stop what they're doing and give Captain Katie a big round of applause. This is her first day back from her suspension. No, I'm just kidding. She's a great joke. I can't tell you if she went to prison, but I don't mind at all. Yeah, so the reason these buoys are here is because during World War II, Billy Bishop Airport was being used as a training ground for European fighter pilots. And one of the ferries was just minding its own business, going all throughout the ski belt on the buoys right there back at World War II. They were going towards Hamlet's Point, which is where we're going now, on a pretty foggy night. And while these two Norwegian fighter pilots were practicing their takeoffs and landings, they accidentally mistook the lights of the ferry for the lights of the airport runway. So when they tried to go down, they kind of just took the whole top out of the ferry off. Thankfully, everybody in the ferry was okay because they were all on the bottom deck. Unfortunately, I can't say the same thing about the pilots. I don't really get into that because it's kind of dark for a kid's tour. But yeah, ever since then, we applied the keto rules. If the train, this boat were to go in this keto zone, we'd be fine. Like, it's too short of a boat. Like, nothing would happen to us. But if the ferry or a larger boat were to go into that, it's really easy to confuse the lights because you also have, apart from the lights of the runway, all the lights of Toronto. So from above, it is really hard to see. But now, while Katie here is starting us towards Hamlet's Point, off to our, of course, also, if you have any questions throughout the tour, just keep them to yourselves. Okay, I have to idea. European family that settled here, the Hanlon's family. They were an Irish family that settled here around the early 1900s, and they set up on Hamlet's Point what was known as an entertainment district. So in the early 1900s, you wouldn't have come to Hamlet's Point to the nice park space or the lovely beaches. You would have come to Hamlet's Point to party. Just because on Hamlet's Point there was bars, hotels, casinos, restaurants, nightclubs. There was even a 10,000 person baseball stadium. And it reached its peak in popularity during the 1920s when there was a free ferry that would go all the way from Rochester, New York, all the way here to Hamlet's Point. Does anybody want to take a guess as to why so many Americans are coming here in the 1920s? Prohibition is correct. That's because during the 1920s, the consumption, sale, and manufacturing of alcohol. Even though Canada had its own prohibition at the exact same time, our rules were a little different. We gave each province the ability to decide what to do with their prohibition. So, Prince Edward Islands had prohibition until 1949. Quebec tried a prohibition for 3 weeks. And then here in Ontario, we had prohibition, but we had massive loopholes. Because we're making so much money off of alcohol, we didn't want to lose out on all that money. So we told other breweries, you can still brew your beer, you can still sell your beer, you just can't sell it to locals. So all the Americans that would come here were fair game. The second way is you can still have red wine for religious purposes. So Friday night mass and go a little crazy. Actually, on our right here, we have a swan. I can't tell you which type of swan it is right now because it's heavy in the water. So we have two types of swans here. Oh, okay, so it's a mute swan. The reason I can tell is by the color of its beak. The mute swan has a nice orange beak. The other swan that we have here on the island is a trumpeter swan that has a nice black beak. A little fun fact about mute swans that unlike Captain Katie's ex-boyfriend, they are monogamous creatures. So what does that mean? They find a partner and stay with them for life. But scientists have estimated that's because of their name. They are mute swans, so since they can't talk to each other, they can't also break up with each other, and that's why they stay together for life. And for anybody wondering, well, what happened to this whole entertainment district, it was actually destroyed by a hurricane. Hurricane Hazel came in 1954, all the way down from Haiti, destroyed all the entertainment district and a lot of Toronto itself. It's still Toronto's most devastating hurricane to date. And after Prohibition came the Great Depression, so the Hans family just didn't have a lot of money on them at the moment. So they decided to just tear everything down and leave Hamlet's Point as beautiful park space. But one thing that is on Hamlet's Point still today is Toronto's only clothing optional beach. Yes, so we do left to your right. Okay. It is on the This current body of water that we're on right now, this is known as Long Pond. Long Pond is one of the many channels that we have here on the islands that have been artificially expanded and lengthened. This specific one has been made longer to be about 1 kilometer long because it's the main channel used for boat races. That's because all throughout the summer we have a bunch of events, a bunch of festivals, a bunch of boat races. So on Canada Day we had the Dominion Day Regatta. About a month and a half ago we had a Dragon Boat Festival, which included a Dragon Boat race, really fun to watch. My personal favorite race was a race that would happen on land. It was during the Scandinavian, nothing like Canadians. They're aggressive when they just don't say sorry. Now we have a pretty severe population problem of them here on the islands. Another country that's a population problem with geese is England. Why do I bring this up? Yeah, not great. I do have to apologize. That's because it is Canada's fault. That's because back in the day when countries were allowed to trade species with each other, Queen Victoria offered us a trade deal. She offered us the mute swan. That's the white swan that we saw earlier. We gave her the Canadian goose. Not the greatest of deals. That's because in only 8 years. Just a second, coming up on our right-hand side, we are entering the Toronto Island Marina. This is the largest live-aboard community in all of Toronto. This community has about 400 residents who live here all throughout the summer, spring, and the fall. And they live here in these boats. These are not regular boats, these are boat houses. So these are boats that have been gutted out, refurbished, and transformed into little homes, or just homes built on floating platforms known as pontoons. This is basically just a really big travel lift. It's basically just a really big net. What happens is the boat just goes to the little parking spot, the travel lift then lifts the boat up. The boat is then covered in a special white plastic saran wrap type material. This is just to protect it from the snow and to make sure no little critters get inside it during the winter. If you actually look at the very back of the marina, you can start to see boats being covered in that saran wrap already. A lot of people during the tours always ask me, so is living here kind of like camping? No, it's nothing like camping. These people have running water, electricity, Wi-Fi, heating, Uber Eats. No, they don't have Uber Eats. But it's a really nice community. But I'm pretty sure the best part about living here is that every hour of every day, of every week, of every month, all summer, you get to listen to the same part of my tour for free. Yep, I'm going to come around every hour talking about these people like they're zoo animals. Feel free to wave at them, just don't feed them. But now, on to our left here. This is Muggs Island. I know it doesn't look like much, but it is home to one very special resident. It is home to Conrad the peacock. Why is there a peacock there? Conrad is not, peacocks are not native to Toronto, sorry. Conrad used to live in the Toronto Island Petting Zoo, but back in 2018, there's a pretty bad little bit. I just asked if you want to take photos, please feel free, just don't crowd Katie up here in the front. She has a seat to drive, that would be unfortunate if she couldn't see. I'm going to hop back on once we're big close to the same tower. stepathons. This is where people race to the very top of the stairs to see who can get the fastest time. Actually, yeah, I'll have you guys guess. Given that it's an average human being with a really good pace, 45 minutes to climb all those stairs, what do you guys think the world record is? 7 minutes and 52 seconds is the world record, yes. I was exhausted after that. I was about 6'8", so he's a little bit shorter than me. And then he also ran triathlons for fun. My idea of fun is like sleeping till noon, so I'm not going to judge. But yeah, he set this record in the late 90s and nobody has broken it since. But there have been many other records set on the CN Tower steps. Some of my favorites are one woman thought that they were not as fast as Brandon, but I can ride a pogo stick better than him. So she grabbed her pogo stick and actually hopped up all 17 out of the steps without touching the floor once.